Hi, I'm Sam Sorbo. You've heard me talk about Mike Lindell, who I adore. You know, he's the inventor of My Pillow, and how that pillow has given me a good night's sleep that I need. In fact, I never knew how good I could sleep before I had my pillow. Mike continues to roll out new offers on his products, and the latest one is on his towel sets. Towels aren't something you think about often. I never knew what I was missing until I tried the towels just last year. Now, you have all helped build My Pillow into the incredible company that it is today, and you've trusted Mike Lindell to give you a great night's sleep. Mike's now changing the game with his 6-piece towel set. The set's made with USA cotton, making it extremely absorbent, and yet still providing that soft feel you look for in a towel. The set comes with 2 bath, 2 hand towels, and 2 washcloths, typically retailing for $109.99. But for a limited time, you can get this set for the low price of $39.99. And that's using promo code Sam Sorbo. So remember, all My Pillow products come with a 60-day money-back guarantee. You just go to mypillow.com, click on the radio listener specials to get this insanely low price of $39.99 on the towel set. You'll find deep discounts on other My Pillow products as well. So enter promo code Sam Sorbo, or you can call 800-625-5983. That's 800-625-5983 for these great radio specials. Hi, this is Sam Sorbo. I want to invite you all to join me at the Playbook for Home Learning Conference put on by Underground Education. There's a new community that started online called the Underground Education Community. You can find it by going to samsorbo.com. You can also find all the information about the conference, about how to approach education with your kids. Times are hard for parents right now. There's a lot going on in the schools that we don't like. But I'll tell you something, home learning is easier than you ever thought it could be and more fun than you ever imagined. So join me at the Your Playbook for Home Learning Conference this June 24-25 in Port St. Lucie, Florida. And we're going to have a great time. Go to samsorbo.com for more information on everything. I'll see you there. Welcome to the Sam Sorbo Show. My guest now is Josh Clark. He's a business owner. He's a former state representative, and he's also a lifelong Liberty First Georgia Republican who grew up with the values of faith in God, hard work, and serving others, and shares those values with his wife, Chelsea, and their 6 children. It's a man after my own heart. Also homeschooled, which is something, and his wife as well. And so their children are also homeschooled, although I understand they go a little bit back and forth between homeschooling and the Christian school. But first and foremost, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Sam. It's great to be with you. It's a privilege.
So while I'm talking here, you're going to turn the camera around because we want to see your bus. You have a fabulous bus that's outside the window there, and it's a bus that you're using to tour across. And there it is. So say something about it.
Yeah, so that is our 45-foot bus called the Liberty Bus that my wife, in fact, drives most of the time while I'm in the back making phone calls and Zoom meetings. A lot of times I'd be doing this in the back of the bus, but we're actually had a meet and greet down here in Savannah, and they said, hey, use our home. So I get to be actually in a room that's not moving.
That's great. I don't know what it's like to run for office. I'm actually putting together a home learning conference. It's called the Playbook for Home Learning. And I'm putting together this conference. And so I'm running a very short-lived campaign, and it is killing me. There's so much work to do, and there's so much energy that I have to spend every day. So I imagine that you're doing about 10 times as much right now.
It's a crazy season, but you know what? People have given everything for this country. So my wife and I and our 6 children, we're all in on it. It's definitely the biggest challenge we've ever undertaken, but we've got to do this. We got to fight for the next generation.
So you served as a state representative, and now you're running for something else. Why, and what's the difference?
Yeah. Well, to tell you that, I probably have to go back a little ways. What kind of laid the foundation? I got to thank my parents. I grew up as the oldest of 10 children. My father was a pastor of a small church, and my mother was a teacher who decided to homeschool us. And so growing up, mom always challenged us. She'd say, is spending money on this, is spending time on that, is that going to make a difference for the kingdom of God? Is that going to serve our country, the world? Is that going to make a difference? And so loved history, loved learning about our founding fathers, loved learning about the biblical principles that were woven in our country. And so when I got out of high school, I rolled up my sleeves as I was building companies and married my childhood sweetheart. And but I was also volunteering to try to help get, best as I could tell, godly men and women who are called to serve, who are constitutional conservatives, try to help get them elected. And then I was challenged by a college board member, serving the board of a Spanish Bible college. And the president, in fact, challenged me to run for office myself. So that's how I ended up stepping in. I always thought I would support others as the businessman, and I would be in ministry and just help others do that. But now I'm in that world.
Way to put the shoe on the other foot. Did you, and you liked it?
You know, it was really a privilege. Yes, it was. It was certainly, it was very engaging. You know, we were all in on it. It was a season. I never saw this as a lifetime career. I've always felt like more people should step in and serve for a season, then leave. So I did that. I served 2 terms, and then I went left unopposed, and now went back to private life. I've been serving as a corporate executive while managing a couple companies we own, and then got really concerned in 2020 about what was happening to our country, and still thought I was done. But as I was praying for our country and sleepless nights, felt the Lord speaking to me saying, you're not done. And I tried to put it off, and a series of events, crazy things happened where we realized God was calling us to jump back into the fray and fight once again, but fight this time at the federal level for our children and children's children. And what I'm very concerned that we're losing this country, we're losing our freedom, we're losing our liberty. It's happening right in front of our eyes, and it's happening very quickly. I feel like unless we step up now, we're going to lose it all.
Do you think there might be a problem with the government establishing a new ministry of truth?
Yes, I do. In fact, you know, to me, is that showing up on your screen?
Nothing's showing up but your lovely face.
Okay, good. Hit the do not disturb there. Yeah, in fact, that really concerns me last night. I don't know what works me up more, what happened in 2020, watching our First Amendment rights getting ripped right out from underneath us, watching people being silenced simply because they had a differing viewpoint from a silent and loud group of radicals that said, if you disagree with us, we'll silence you. We'll even silence the president of the United States. But now, as you said yesterday, now they've decided to be the Gestapo that's going to tell us arbitrators of truth.
I think this is basically a direct result of Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Because now they're going to codify it into law. What is truth? The law will tell us what truth is, which to a certain degree it already is, but not as blatantly. So what do we do? What is your plan?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing that we have to do as concerned citizens, as Americans, realize we are blessed to live in this country. We're blessed to have a voice. Now, that voice, we may feel discouraged because we see what happened in the last election, which I warned people that we would have massive ballot harvesting in Georgia if we did what we did. And I know that's discouraging, but at the same time, for me, it just fires me up. Like we're going to stand before God one day. And I believe being blessed to be in a country where we still have a voice, even though they're trying to silence us, and it may cost us greatly, but this generation, I think, has to rise up. And when I showed the picture of the bus, it said, overcome together, because there's a verse in the scripture. It says, we are more than overcomers. Most people know the translation conquerors, but we're more than overcomers through Christ who's loved us. And I feel like every generation of Americans has risen to the challenge when we go back through history. And yet I think the challenge is greater. The threat is greater than ever, but how are we going to respond? And that's where I feel like the first thing is we've got to become engaged citizens that speak up and risk everything if necessary. I mean, I read when we met as a family after the Lord had spoken to me, and then I tried to put it off, and we had people out of the blue coming up and challenging us that we don't have time. You can't put this off. And I had to agree with them. I think we're at that tipping point right now. There's a red wave coming. And I think it's easy for us to take some kind of comfort in that. Like, okay, we're going to come in, we're going to have a majority, we're going to take control. But the challenge is who's going to ride that wave? And are they really going to fight for us, we the people, or is it going to be more of the same, enriching themselves, taking advantage of crises to increase their power? Or are we the people going to speak up and hold people accountable, vet them, and make sure we have the right people that are running? So when we met,
I get why you're running for Senate. How do you fix Georgia's election integrity?
Well, that's something that needs to be done at the state level. I think this is absolutely wrong. What the federal government is trying to do is take over the elections. So we passed SB 202 in Georgia. I say they did, and it didn't go far enough. But thankfully, I think that it did go so far that I think we can win this election in November if we all get involved and we make our voice heard. Also, though, one thing I think we can do at the federal government, and this is sad that we're even talking about this, but I think that we need to pass a resolution that would require that and make it very clear that only U.S. citizens can vote in elections. I think our founding fathers were clear about that, yet 11 cities are circumventing that. Arizona actually passed that as a state, and not one single Democrat would vote for a simple bill that acknowledges that only U.S. citizens can vote. Can you believe that? So we need to tackle that.
Unfortunately, I can, because more and more the Democrat Party hates America.
Yes, they do. And now we've known that, but now we're seeing it blatantly. And I think we're seeing it down in Florida, right? With Disney, who started out, the family-friendly entertainment that we all thought, oh, it's safe for our children to watch Disney. My parents didn't. They already saw.
Okay. So you're segueing to our next subject, where we're going to talk about the fact that the Democrat Party hates our children. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back with Josh Clark, we'll talk about that as well. Stay tuned. This is the Sam Sorbo Show. We've discovered, my husband and I, a great American company that supports our traditional values and also the work we're doing to rescue our culture from the lies of the left. So I want you to go check it out. It's called NutraMedics.com. NutraMedics.com. And you can find there great health and wellness products that are derived from the rainforests. I've found that they work incredibly for me. I take their melatonin. I get a much better night's sleep with that. I also take their Relax Medics and their Mood Medics, which are, I don't know what they are, but they're this natural blend of herbs, basically, and really easy to take. They actually droppers, and I just love their products, and I love what they stand for, because they have a heart for this nation and they have a heart for people. And I don't know how you would have one without the other. And that's why maybe they have both. But I just love what they do. So go to NutraMedics.com, and you can actually go to sorbo.nutramedics, and that's with an X, sorbo.nutramedics.com. If you use Sorbo at checkout, you'll get a discount on anything that you purchase there. So go check it out. Get a better night's sleep, get a better day, feel better about yourself. They've got a lot of great products there, including vitamins. I use them all. So trust me, it's great. NutraMedics.com. And thank you so much for listening. And welcome back to the Sam Sorbo Show. My guest is still Josh Clark. He's running for U.S. Senate for the great state of Georgia. We've been talking about election integrity and how the state needs to handle that, and how the federal government should definitely butt out. And it seems obvious that the Democrat Party, by and large, I just say, just generally speaking, hates America. So the Democrats in Arizona and other states refuse to vote for bills as simple as you need to be a citizen in order to take part in our elections, simple things like that. I mean, the everyone I talk to, of everyone I talk to, there isn't a single person who can support the argument that you shouldn't ask for an ID at voting. It's so absurd that the Democrats' position is that's racist to ask somebody for an ID. Then our drinking laws are racist. Then our prescription laws are racist. If that's the case, driving is racist, right?
Picking up your tickets to a Braves game is racist.
Right.
Showing
Right.
ID to pick up those tickets, right? At will call.
Exactly. I don't go to Braves games, but if I did, I would be happy to show my ID.
Well, we'd love to have you come to a Braves game, but you know what? We may just have to, we may have to quit doing that. I mean, because it's unbelievable in Georgia. We need to do exactly what DeSantis did in Florida, where we say, you know what? If you're going to get involved, because when we passed SB 202 requiring ID to vote, you saw, the stink. They tried to cancel, us. They tried to threaten the legislature, and yet they were requiring ID to go pick up your tickets. I'd like to do what DeSantis did and hold their feet to the fire and say, okay, you want to do that? Now we'll remove your Delta got involved. We'll remove your tax break. Well, in fact, we'll make this an even playing field, remove the breaks that you're getting if you're going to use your power to try to force yourself on the citizens of Georgia in a hypocritical way, right?
Yes, exactly. It's the hypocrisy that stings the most. One thing that it reminds me of this, the story of the scientists who figured out how to create life, and they're so proud of themselves, and they're like, listen, God, we've got it all figured out, so we don't need you anymore. So, thanks for the little show, but really nobody believes in you anymore, and there's really no point to you hanging out here, so we'll just take it from here. And God says, well, how about this? How about you show me how you've managed to do this phenomenal thing, and then we can, and then I'll leave you alone, but just show me how you do it. And the scientists say, well, first you take a little bit of dirt, and God says, hey, get your own dirt. And that's what DeSantis is saying, okay, go get your own dirt, Disney. And that there was a huge dust up. So we alluded to this in the previous segment. There's this huge dust up over Disney saying that they were coming out against the parental rights bill, and against the bill. It actually, more recently, it was the bill protecting children from having conversations about gender and sexuality from going up to the 4th grade. And Disney and the Democrats doubled down, which is a brilliant move by DeSantis, because he sort of rope-a-doped them. He drew them out, and he said, listen, this is just to protect children in kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, and 3rd grade from having these conversations. It's too young to be addressing this kind of topic with these young children. And Disney and the Democrats said, no, I will talk to children about sex. I will talk to 5-year-olds about, fornicating or whatever. Like, it's just crazy. And I can't believe that it's going to be a winning strategy, but they will only lose if good people come out in force.
That's right. All that it takes for evil to prevail is for men and women of good conscience to do nothing. And so it's encouraging, isn't it, to see people waking up and to see people like DeSantis who have the courage to hold them accountable. And,
Right.
I was reading, Sam, just the other day in the curriculum for administrators to teach the gender-bred man, right, that they're teaching in schools across the country. And what really alarmed me is right there in the open, they acknowledged, what this is all about. They said we must reach the youth before the 4th grade, because by that point, their gender is more or less, for the most part, set. And it really struck me because I've seen so many people trying to say, oh, they're not really, you guys are making something out of nothing. In fact, I even had an uncle who said, had his head buried in the sand. He's like, I don't think they're really doing that. And the scary part is the reality, they are. And we have to wake up and realize they're scheming on a broad level, they know if they can destroy the family unit, if they can get the next generation, they win this thing. And that's why I think it's important that in the US Senate, we need somebody who's going to be bold, loud, that has a steel spine and understands that the family unit is quintessential to securing the blessings of liberty for the next generation. We destroy the family, they know they win.
And this is actually what I talk about when I'm speaking on education, because what we seem to fail to recognize, most people, right? You're homeschooled and you're homeschooling your kids, which is obviously wonderful. What we fail to realize is that the education system is anti-family, the entire system. And by the way, it's also anti-education. And so my efforts are to empower parents to simply teach kids the way of the world, teach them God, love of country, love of family, relationships, and throw in some academics. But this idea that the whole world is only about academics and that you're only as valuable as the dollar figure in front of your name is an absurdity that we never should have accepted in the first place. And we only accepted because it crept in. I got into a bit of a back and forth. I'm on Substack quite a bit these days. And somebody wrote something about his daughter her daughter sort of pulling away, seeking independence back in school, that homeschooling was great for the 2 years that they did it. And she really loved it, but the daughter was really happy to be back with her friends. And I wrote, yeah, it's too bad that the young woman thinks that she is better situated spending her time with her friends than with her family, because that is a lie. And we just don't recognize it because it is so normalized at this, right? We're talking about this idea of just normalizing these behaviors that now we're seeing obviously detrimental behaviors. We're seeing sex grooming in the classrooms. And at least we have the facility to identify that and go, no, hold on. Talking to 5-year-olds about sex and the things about sex, that's too far. But there's so much else that's happening. Just the separation of a 5-year-old from the family all day is an abuse. But we accept it because that's how we grew up. I mean, I went to public school, so I consider myself school injured at this point.
Well, I want to encourage the parents on that note, because you're talking about what the child wanted. To be honest with you, as the oldest of 10 children who was homeschooled in that first generation, where people would say to my parents, I heard the conversations over and over, your poor child is going to be a social reject. And, don't you know what you're doing? It's illegal. And, it's child abuse. And, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, do we know what we're doing? And I also remember when I got into high school, really challenging my parents, saying, hey, I want to go to public school. If I'm honest about it, I remember that. But yet I came back to my parents in my early 20s and I thanked them. And it may not always happen in the early 20s, but I've seen that over and over. Kids thanking their parents later in life, maybe once they had children, and realizing, mom and dad did care about me. They did want my best interest, and I wasn't old enough to make these decisions for myself. And so
that's what kills me. That's what kills me with these parents saying, well, I let my daughter decide. What? Why don't you step up and be a parent for a minute? Okay. Because how would your daughter know? If your daughter wanted to eat nothing but M&Ms for dinner, would you just let her decide to eat M&Ms for dinner? Come on, But here's the thing, Josh, we weren't parented. You were. But as a generation, we have been generationally, we've been unparented for so long because you're accepted in this broad, gross generalization that I'm making. We all went to public school, and therefore we were deprived of our parents for 7+ hours a day. And the whole paradigm shifted. And that's what we're struggling with now. We have parents who don't know how to parent.
Yep. Well, I am very grateful. And it also gives me, that lens to look from when I look back. And again, thank my parents. Thank you for doing that. And not only that, and this, I think there's a guilt sometimes as parents. We feel like we've got to give our children a certain experience or American experience. Well, let me just shatter that. In that my mother lost her health. She lost in an accident, a kidney, a spleen, and an adrenal. So as the oldest of 10, I'm running in a race where there's a celebrity who's a sports, was actually, in fact, was my hero growing up, Herschel Walker. The only challenge, I love him. He just can't win in November. And that's another story. But there's so much in his book that's coming out. The Democrats, they're salivating over the opportunity to take him on. But anyhow, the point is, I tell people I'm not that celebrity. In fact, I loved sports, but I couldn't even play sports because when I was growing up, because it was a privilege. We didn't have the money for sports. And secondly, when my mom lost her health, I had to step up and help raise the younger children. But you know what? It was the best thing that could have happened to me. I hate that my mother had to suffer, but for me, it taught me that life was not about me. I think the earlier that we can teach our children that we love them, and we love them, right? More than anything other than God, right? And our spouse, God, our spouse, and they need to know the order of things. But they need to know, as much as we love them, it's not all about them.
No, and in fact,
Age,
it's so much better for them to learn that they have a purpose, that they serve a greater purpose than their personal whims and fantasies. And that's something that, so he was saying, the mother was saying, well, I guess this is just her way of asserting her independence. And, with the culture and all of these kids that are ending up living in their parents' basements, that's a good thing. And I just put out there, I said, well, perhaps the reason that children are living in their parents' basements now is because they never got the parenting growing up, because they were constantly being pulled away from their parents. And so maybe what you're doing is the exact opposite of what you should be doing, by just sort of giving her a little pat on the butt as she goes off to be with her friends all day long. Maybe that's exactly not what she needs. But here's the thing. So, and I talk about this in my talks. We are taught from a very young age to not question. We're taught in our schools, don't ask. This is something that is ingrained in us. And so we're not even asking the questions because we don't even know what questions to ask, and we don't even know how to ask a question. We always have to ask permission first to ask a question, and all of that. It's all a deterrent. You are supposed to do what you've been told to do and trained to do in the schools. And that is a disservice to our youth and to our families and to our communities and to our nation. And it is, I believe, the source, really the foundation of most of our problems that we're having today. And the reason that Marxism is taking over, we've been training kids to become Marxists. I don't think it should be a shock that they are. But you're running for Senate. You're running against Herschel Walker. And if you want to go find out more about Josh, I encourage you to do that. Josh Clark is running for Senate in the great state of Georgia. Just go to votejosh.com and see his platform, and maybe you can enter to win an AK or what is it? AR-15.
Yes, every week. Yeah, you can also follow us on the social media links are all across the top. But meet my when you go there, you'll get to meet my wife and our 6 children. I'm blessed. In fact, they're all on that bus that I showed you earlier. We're crisscrossing the state, and it's a sacrifice for them as well. But it's something we talked about that our founding fathers, that they did. Not only when I gave my life to Christ, did my wife and I, we surrendered everything. So it's not about our plans, it's about what he has for us. But our founding fathers, they risked everything. And when I read to the family the Declaration of Independence, where at the bottom it says, we pledge our lives, our fortunes, our sacred honor. I said, that's the kind of seriousness that we need to step up. And that's the kind of abandonment that we need to step into this race with. If God's calling us, we got to be willing to sacrifice everything. And I'm so grateful. In fact, we thought we were going on the mission field for a year. And so that kind of, I think my kids said it helped prepare their hearts.
Nice.
God's plans are better than our plans. But they said, Dad, we're ready. Let's do it.
Before I let you go, because this is a profound topic that you've touched on, and I teach on this also. When you say that you've sacrificed, I want people to understand that our our understanding in our culture today is that sacrifice is bad. The sacrifice is hard. That sacrifice, but the fact is that everything is a sacrifice. Every single thing, every choice you make, you are sacrificing something. And typically you sacrifice something that is less valuable for something that is more valuable. Christ sacrificed his life, which was less valuable than for the things that were more valuable, you and me, right? Humanity in general. And
Yes.
so when you say you're sacrificing, there's a great gift in sacrifice. When people say, oh, you sacrificed for your kids because you chose not to work. Yeah. I mean, come on. My kids are much more valuable than my work. Are you kidding me? And that
Yeah.
is the value system that we haven't been taught in school for many, many generations now. That somehow money is more valuable than children.
Yes.
So
And
I
our kids,
go ahead.
yeah, I'm sorry. I was gonna say, and our kids need to see that lived
Yes.
out. So help me God in our lives. So they realize again, back to it's not all about you. I love you so much. I want you to, we say to our kids, I want you to learn this, and we got to model it. And that's where my wife, as we were praying and fasting about this, and we've been very blessed, built multiple companies, and have more than we deserve and all. But we oftentimes get caught up in the blessings that have come living in this country of freedom and all, and the opportunity and all. And we think there's a certain thing that standard or something that we deserve or should have. And I love what my wife said in the midst of our fasting and prayer. She said, you know what, honey, I'm with you on this. I think this is so clear. We have to do it. And if we were to lose everything in the process, she said, that'd be a great example for our children to realize. And that's one of our greatest fears, is them growing up with so much abundance in this country, regardless of where we are in the socioeconomic ladder. They need to see, and I was blessed to see that with my family growing up, that really helped me own my faith, that it wasn't not only was it not about me, that it wasn't about them. It wasn't about our perfect little family and going to church every Sunday. It was about how do we, God has blessed our family. We have a strong family unit, but how do we use that to go impact and change the world?
That's
So
right.
that in the end, it's well done, thou good and faithful servant. It's a big old party in heaven, and we get to enjoy the blessings that came from serving down here.
Josh Clark, thank you so much for coming on the program. This is the Sam Sorbo Show.